Hello, everyone. Welcome back to DM, Druggies Matter. My segment dedicated to the fact that druggies do matter. And in this series, I'm trying to explain to America, to the world at large, why druggies matter. And to show druggies themselves why they matter. Because in our society, we have been taught a whole bunch of crap about drug users. It's all propaganda. Believe me, I know I'm a drug user. I've been one since I was 11 years old. I'm on the drug user side of things. So, and I have a lifetime experience. I'm 58 years old. Do the math. I've been doing drugs my whole life. And so I have a lifetime of experience as a drug user to speak for the drug users. And we do matter. We matter a whole hell of a lot. Now, in my last episode, I brandished my little list of reasons why the war on drugs is wrong and why druggies matter. So I've decided that I'm just going to go down my list and I'm going to do episodes based on everything in my that then this was off the top of my head yesterday. But anyway, today's episode is dealing with wasteful imprisonment. Now, the reason why I thought about this, why I put this here, was because I do watch politics, and Joe Biden did mention something about prison reform, wasteful imprisonment. Well, I hate to tell you this, President Biden, but every incarceration for drug use, sales, or any of that crap is all wasteful imprisonment. Because the United States of America is based on not the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the bottom line, the foundation of the United States of America's Constitution. And every law to be passed by the United States must pass the criteria forth, set forth by our founders in this most crucial document. And the war on drugs violates several of these stipulations, these inalienable rights. Now, inalienable means there can be no justification for the denial of these rights. The right to pursuit of happiness. The United States of America does not have the constitutional right to determine the pursuit of happiness of the citizens of this state, as long as that pursuit does not violate the rights of other citizens. That is just a duh, okay? Somebody like myself who uses drugs does so to pursue happiness, okay? I personally started using drugs to self-medicate for mental anguish and trauma that my family refused to address. So I was self-medicated to make me happy because I was miserable, neglected, abused, not by my family. Well, okay, not per se, like being knocked around, but I was sexually abused, and that sexual abuse was ignored. So I was neglected emotionally as a child because it was skeleton in the closet. But that's beside the point. Anyway, for those reasons, I pursued drugs to help me find happiness. I also did it for self-determination. because it was the one thing that I chose for myself that made me feel better. Again, pursuit of happiness, feeling better. My needs were not addressed by society or my family. And for that, I chose drugs. That is my right, my self-determination right. And it is a matter of privacy. The United States government does not have the right to look into my private life as long as I do not bother anybody else. Because that's crossing a line of law. My drug use has never hurt anyone but me. I choose to damage my body with drug use. Every time you go to a restaurant or a supermarket and choose boxed crap that they call food, you're doing the exact same thing. Every time you call a doctor, you're doing the exact same thing. So, every prisoner of the war on drugs is a wasteful imprisonment. And we have an abundance of unnecessary prisons strewn across the entire nation, whose purpose is only necessary because of the incarceration of people for violations of their civil rights by the government of the United States in laws that are not constitutional. They do not qualify as constitutional because they violate the Bill of Rights. And within the document itself, the Bill of Rights, it states that at the moment that the government of the United States of America supersedes these rights, they are in violation. And it is required of the citizens to overthrow that government at that time. The moment the United States government declared a war against the people of the United States who use drugs, they crossed that line. But I'm Zion. I publish peace. I do not feel that it is necessary or profitable in any way, shape, or form to commit violence. Violence perpetuates violence, and prisons perpetuate violence. The war on drugs perpetuates violence. So, to end wasteful imprisonment, the unnecessary use of resources to imprison individuals for nothing more than following their basic rights as American citizens to pursue happiness in private, the happiness of their own choosing. So, to close down the wasteful prisons, end the war on drugs. Because if you end the war on drugs, you will end the overpopulation of the prison systems. You will be literally dismantling hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of prisons all over the United States. Because the only people who will be left in the prisons will be the violent offenders and those who have actually broken real justifiable laws. Laws passed by the government of the United States in regards to the Bill of Rights. So, in order to end the separation of families by imprisonment, the stripping of the wealth of those involved, the willful endangerment of the entire population by the prolific propaganda against these people, forcing them into a violent state. Because gang violence, as we know it, is a direct result of the war on drugs. And a lot of those gangs were extreme, were made extremists by the perpetuation of the war on drugs. And those violent offenders are the ones that are ending up in our prisons the most. Now, it was the minorities that felt the need to create the gangs to protect themselves from each other and from the police. The proliferation of imprisonment has exacerbated all of the rest of social injustices, creating an entire body of prisons that are unnecessary without the war on drugs. And the war on drugs is not justifiable. I have done the research. There is no evidence of the dangerous drug use prior to the enactment of the war on drugs. The United States of America created an imaginary problem that allowed them to oppress the poor of their population and the minorities, creating an ever-increasing demand and need for police and for more violent acts. The war on drugs was never necessary because it was never a problem to begin with. And every person imprisoned for drug use is wasteful imprisonment, destructive to the family, destructive to the economy, destructive to social order, destructive to humanity as a whole. So, if we want to stop wasting our resources by imprisoning people that have no need to be imprisoned, let's end the war on drugs. Because there is not a single law against drug use that was ever necessary, including the very first one against cocaine. If they had imprisoned the snake oil salesman instead of made cocaine illegal, there would have never been a problem to begin with. If they would not have listened to a bunch of overzealous Christian women, there would have never been a prohibition against alcohol. And without the prohibition against alcohol, there would have never been the conception of a prohibition against marijuana or any of the other following prohibitions. All laws against drugs violate the Constitution, creating a criminal element that never existed before, that was never justified. There was never, ever, in the history of marijuana use, renegade elements that went out and killed people for no reason. It just never happened. Period. And the rest of the drugs were pretty much designed, if not by the governments, by the pharmaceuticals. So, let's stop wasting prison space. Get rid of the war on drugs. May the Grey watch over you, guide you, protect you, and keep you from all harm. May they teach you right from wrong, and may you be worthy of them. May your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect truth, good, and light the unicorn way. Find your joy and pursue it. Make that your guild choice when we get to camp. And if you use drugs, Stay happy and high. You have every right and reason to, because druggies matter. Believe me, I know. I wrote 2 books about it. My name is Zion. I love you way too much to say goodbye, so I'm going to say later now.